Oh, you know, Americans receive 130 million robocalls a day. You probably feel like you get the bulk of them. How do you make them stop? Plus, Governor Roy Cooper signed 3 criminal justice reform bills into law earlier this month. What can we make of all of those things? How do we explain them? Attorney General Josh Stein is with us for the next 15 minutes to talk about all that and much more, and answer your questions as well. We want you to get your questions to the AG by texting them to us at 336-379-5775. Remember, this is text only, so please don't call. All right, let's first and foremost start with those criminal justice reforms. We've got that House bill that talks about mental evaluations before hiring.
Yeah, the job of law enforcement is incredibly stressful and complicated. And what we want to make sure is that the officers who get into the line of work and get promoted throughout their careers have the right physical and mental tools to succeed. And so that was one of the provisions in the bill that you just mentioned, Tanya. But there were a number of other really important advances to make our criminal justice system work both better and treat people more fairly. It's all about building that trust between the community and the law enforcement that serves them. So it's about recruiting the right type of people into law enforcement. It's training them with everything that they need in order to succeed. If they do wrong, to have an early intervention system to correct those mistakes so they don't happen in the future and people don't get hurt as a consequence. But, you know, there are some people who shouldn't be in law enforcement. And it's really important that when a law enforcement agency separates with an officer, or that officer has some database, the officer has engaged in police-involved shootings that were not well advised, that they don't just wander from one agency to the next. And another piece of legislation requires the departments to refer to databases that can give them that kind of information. So it's about having the right officers, treating them well, training them well, and then when they do wrong, holding them accountable so that the public can have confidence in their police.
All right, well, let's move on to the opioid agreement, because we just talked about this during our 5 o'clock newscast. And this opioid settlement is just the second largest attorneys general settlement in all of our country's history.
That's right. The tobacco settlement from 23 years ago was bigger, but that's the only case that's been bigger. This one's $26 billion with 4 defendants, Johnson & Johnson and the 3 drug distributors. And then there's another case that's worth $8 to $10 billion with Purdue Pharma. It's in bankruptcy, but it's being resolved. And there are a couple of other cases that are in various stages of negotiation or resolution. In the end, it's going to be upwards of $35 to $45 billion. And the vast amount of that resources has to go to local communities where it can make a difference in people's lives, people who are struggling with addiction. There's so many individuals suffering and family members, parents, brothers, sisters, cousins. They live the agony along with the person struggling with addiction. And we want to help as many of those people kick their addiction, live a healthy, happy life free of addiction. And that's what these billions of dollars are going to allow. And in North Carolina, when you put it all together, it's nearly $1 billion just to North Carolina alone.
So we got a text question about this as you were talking. This person says, is any of that opioid money going to go to creating new and more recovery centers to help those who are actually suffering with the effects of opioid addiction?
No question, no question. The agreement restricts that the funds have to go to things like opioid treatment, opioid recovery services like your viewer just asked, harm reduction strategies, prevention campaigns. It has to go to attacking the problem. And the bulk of the money is going to go to local governments, to counties and cities across the state. Some of the money is going to go to the state, but wherever it goes, it has to go to attacking the problem. And so some communities have good treatment facilities, but not very good recovery services. So each community will be able to tailor the strategies that are most appropriate for them using these funds.
Right, there's a whole list of different things that they can spend it on that goes towards opioid abuse. And just interesting how that number breaks down. 15% goes to the state, but 80% goes to those local cities and counties, which is a huge percentage when you're looking at what could have happened.
Yeah, 85% are going to go to the local governments, because when you think about it, who runs the jails? It's the county. Who runs emergency services, ambulance services? The county. So a lot of these social services get funded by the counties, and we wanted to make sure that they had the money necessary to develop effective strategies to help people get to the other side of their addiction.
All right, we're getting lots of robocall texts, so we're going to be talking about that when we come back. You can continue to text your questions. We'll see you in just a few minutes.